Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new. I'm Shan and I'm a recent graduate from the Glasgow School of Art. Over the past few months I began creating my portfolio for my master's application, and what I applied for was an MLit in fine art. So it's a Master of Letters in Fine Art Practice and I went for the sculpture pathway. So for the application, GSA asked for a personal statement along with your application, a 2-1 or a first in your undergrad degree, 25 slides of a portfolio. So what's the difference between an undergrad and a master's application when you're applying? For me, when I was doing my research, obviously I was focusing on what GSA were looking for because I actually only applied to GSA. So after researching what GSA were looking for in a portfolio, I kind of spoke to some previous master's students who had already applied, and I spoke to some lecturers that I knew would kind of have a wee bit more advice. Also, GSA had something about the portfolio on their website. I can't remember what it is, but if I can find it I'll link it below. And basically what the main points that I got from it was I had to be quite a cohesive portfolio. So you've done your undergrad and by 4th year you should kind of have an idea of where your practice is going, and more of a like cohesive theme or more like considered work, maybe like a body of work by the time that you've graduated. So you're kind of wanting to show more of a body of work that's got more of a narrative through it, that shows what you're interested in and you're confident in what you're researching or what you're making art about, basically. So you just want to show that you've got a clear direction, and that obviously an MLit's only 1 year, so you kind of need to almost have an idea of what you're going to pursue. And another thing that I would say is different to the undergrad for your portfolio is the GSA anyway. They like it in chronological order. So they want to see they kind of want to see works that are, if you're just like a graduate, a recent graduate, they want to obviously see work from maybe like your 3rd year and your 4th year, like in chronological order. Or if you're like, you've been, out in the world practicing or whatever, they don't want to see anything that's any more than 3 years old, so they want to see your most recent work but in chronological order. Sorry about the lighting, it's a very sunny day and the sun kind of keeps going behind the clouds and whatever, but yeah. Right, so now that I've kind of explained that, I can say that this is an accepted portfolio video. I did get into my masters, which I'm really happy about. So yeah, let's go through the slides. So I'm going to be looking at my computer here because I've got my slides up, and I'm basically just going to talk you through it. I'll put like the slides on the screen here, but I'm basically just going to talk you through what I was thinking when I put this together. So obviously for me, and my advice I've given before in my previous portfolio video for undergrad, and if you've not seen that I'll put it in the links up wherever it goes on the screen. We always open with a wall image, so something that's going to capture the attention of who's looking at your portfolio. So for me that was this image, and even though it's an image of the finished work, it doesn't really matter because it kind of grabs your attention into like what's going on, like who's the person in the photo, what is this that she's holding. It's obviously handmade, it's obviously like bold and big, it's in black and white, so it's like it's a narrative, it's telling you something, and then obviously the slogan on the t-shirt is kind of like interesting, it's like, oh, I want to know more. And then going on to my second slide is some sketches that I had done in the first processes of this project, and it's kind of like a woman with a horse's head. So this was kind of about like putting on a front, and these 3 pieces together were called Alter Ego. So I didn't actually include the name of these pieces, which could have given away a wee bit more of what the project was about to the viewer, but I think through the images you kind of get that. So for this first project I've actually got 6 images just of the one project. So it's just 6 slides all with images of the one project. So in total I've got like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've got 11 photos, but they're in 6 slides. So moving on from this one, we come to this one here, which is some sketchbook pages. It's also got the kind of marketing material, so this was a postcard that we were to make in 3rd year. And it also has a bit of text on it, so it kind of gives a wee indication of what this could be about. So even though I never included the alter ego, I did include like masquerade, which is the title, to pretend to be someone or something one is not. So it's kind of like, it's giving you that indication of what I'm kind of talking about here, what this mask is meant to represent. And then on the next slide we've got this woman standing behind the mask. The mask has been rusted, and it's shown a very powerful pose. Now this is on this image is on a slide of its own because it's another one of those Waugh images. It's one of those that it stands alone. You don't want to put too many images in the one slide when one of the images is really strong, because here you're getting like the whole thing in the one image. So it's a woman and she's standing behind the mask and she's doing a very powerful pose. So to me that reads that, considering we just read in the last slide that pretending to be something one is not, so it's about putting on a face, it's about putting this mask on, this strength, and the fact that it's made of metal as well, it shows that strength and that courage. And moving on to the next slide, we then see how the piece was rusted. So we're kind of getting a wee taste there where we're like, oh, so it's like, it's bolder now because it's got that like fierce like copper red colour, which is like anger and strength and all that. And then the next image we see that actually this piece was placed outside, so it's been in an environment and it's been changed by its environment as well. So you can see the handmade kind of clean shiny metal, and then the weather that's affected it has made it rust and go this almost fierce red, which to me is like, it kind of reads like how your environment can change you as a person and how things can make you stronger, even though when you think about rust it's kind of weakening metal, but actually in this case it's making it look a lot more fierce and giving it that red fiery colour. The next image is again a standalone piece. It's the last image or the last slide of this project, and it's just a really good photograph of it in its place. So it's just an interesting photograph. It shows it mid-rusting and it just shows you a different perspective of the piece. So this piece was actually put into an environment, and the way it's shaped and the position that it took, it actually encouraged people to come and stand behind it. Once you stood behind it, what you could see through each hole was a building. This was a site-specific work, so you could see a building which actually housed women who were fleeing domestic abuse, and it had also been a maternity hospital way back in the past. And through the other eye you could see a field which had horses in it, which obviously was inspired by the mask. And just for another wee bit of background on this, so the reason that it portrays a horse is because horses are perceived as these strong, like fierce animals, but actually they're very fight or flight, so they're quite like skittish and scared, and yeah, they'll run away from anything basically. So it's kind of that like portraying that, like putting on a face, putting on a mask. So on to the next slide, which is actually a public sculpture that I have produced in the past year, and this was to show, obviously coming on, it's still about like the horses. You can see like the bronze and the silver, so it's bringing in that same kind of rusted look, aging the new, and it also shows that I've been involved in projects that aren't just being made for uni. So this project was actually with a housing company, Barrett Homes, and it's actually put outside a housing estate. So it just kind of shows that I have been involved with bigger projects, because Sometimes, usually what people do after graduating their undergraduate is they'll go off and they'll do like maybe some work in the field, or they'll try and set up to be an artist before they come back and do their masters. But for me, I'm just not ready to stop studying. So I've applied straight from undergraduate, but I do still have the same experience because I have been working out with uni whilst I've been studying. So this is kind of what this shows. And then the next slide of that, so what I've done here is I've been like, this is the piece, it's a really kind of grand photograph, and then on the next slide what I kind of had here was the process. So it kind of shows you a wee bit about the piece, just about the iron symbolisation, because this piece was it was to do with like Falkirk, it was to do with like the Antonine Wall, so it was kind of like the Iron Age, stuff like that. And then in Bonnybridge horses were used. It's quite a well-known thing about horses in the area, and I kind of used like Epona and kind of two horses, like the mare and the foal and stuff. So that's what this kind of shows. And basically all I've done is take pictures of my sketchbook up close, so you can read the writing. I've kind of shown like sketches, it's shown my process, it's shown that how I go through from ideas to research to producing the final piece. So obviously that wasn't a university project as well, so it was very different. It was a quicker time scale and it was a bit more of a side project, so it's got a different process from others, but it kind of shows that I'm still using the process that I'm learning in university out with. So coming on to the next slide, this is actually quite an interesting piece. So far my work has been quite like photographic of actual sculptures and stuff. So here you have a wee kind of look into how my mind works a wee bit. So this piece is actually an installation, and basically I've started off, instead of showing you the full piece, I've showed you like, I'm giving you a wee taste almost. So it's like, it's two collages, which is something else that I'm really interested in, and it also shows like a different way or a different process that I use to get to the final piece, which can be quite interesting. So here it's just images that are collaged together, and it kind of gives you a like kind of what's going on here. So we've got like chairs that are almost like therapy chairs or therapist chairs or something you would go to in therapy. Also like relaxing, and then we've got horse elements, and then we've got sound elements. It kind of gets your mind thinking like, what's going to go on here? And then when we move to the second image here, we've got images of the actual piece. So we've got these textures up close. So we've got the hairnet and the shavings, and this image is quite like satisfying, so it gives you that satisfying feeling. It's kind of making you wonder like, what is this to kind of do with? And then you've got the chair and the things, so you've seen the process and then you've seen it come to life. And then on the next slide we've actually seen it in an exhibition setting, which is quite interesting as well, because this is obviously again out with my university exhibition with Outside Out of Mind, which is a mental health charity, and it just shows this really interesting setup. And it also shows the video piece which goes along, which is a horse eating the hay. So it's all to do with horse therapy, not just horse therapy, but just the senses and how that can help you relax and things like that. And it's obviously to do with me personally and things that I have experienced and how horses have helped me in the past. So it's still horse related, it's kind of still all making sense. So the next one here, the next image here, image number 12. So we're almost about halfway through here. And this project again has had about 4 slides to itself. So the last one here is showing that it's actually an interactive piece. It's showing people actually getting involved and getting to know the piece and getting to feel it and touch it and getting that therapy benefit from it. Moving on from that, what I've got here is, again, preliminary sketches. So you've got these really weird looking hats. You can almost see that the kind of design on the hat is like vulvas, and then we've got this weird fringe thing which could be hair, and they're like quite like older hats. So we're kind of looking at like really dressy kind of hats from way back when. And moving on from that, we've got this person, who's me, wearing this hat with a chain on it, it's got a lock on it. We're at the races, we're getting interviewed, so it's quite a like, oh, what's going on with this hat? Why is this hat so important? Like, what makes this hat? It's sparking an interest. And then when we move on to the next slide, we've got a press image, which is just, personally, I just really liked the image of the hat. It showed the hat really, really well. But it also shows you 2 close-ups of experiments of what actually is on the hat. So these are vulvas that are made from horsehair and like a bead for the clitoris, and then you see the chain and all that. So it's just kind of, it's making you think, like, what is this about? When you think about the races, and then you're thinking about feminism, obviously because Emily Davidson and the races and stuff like that, the horsehair and the hat. And then it finishes on a really, really strong slide, which is me wearing the hat at Epsom races on the, I think it was the 100th year anniversary, and it's got the racehorses in the background. So it's a really strong image. It's black and white again, so it's I feel like black and white images, they're just like really powerful, and I feel like they just like, it's not to do with the image. Well, it is to do with the image, but it's not to do with like composition or anything. It's to do with what's going on in that image. There's a narrative there. Yeah, so I feel like that was quite strong. And again, that project had 4 slides, so you can see that I'm going kind of project by project, but they've got a link. Each one's got a link. So in this one, we're still kind of looking at horses, but we're kind of moving on from that, and we're kind of looking more at like feminist, strong women, which we've been looking at all the way through. But it's kind of to do with like, we've seen like mental health, strong, passionate women. Again here, the horses, strong women, feminism. And then, like I've said in my past portfolio video, sometimes you want to put in a wee bit of twist that kind of makes you think. And this is what this next slide does. So this next slide is like a boom. You've been expecting more horsey stuff, more of this same thing, and then I'm going to throw this at you and be like, let's switch things up a wee bit. Let's be a bit more daring and just be a bit more out there. And this is what this kind of shows. It's red, it's using the same colour scheme, because obviously the fiery reds and what that represents. And it's including text, which was included in the first project here. And it's got this line drawing, which obviously we've seen at the beginning as well with like the horses, the women with the horse heads. So it's kind of combining all the elements, and it's just putting a wee spanner into the works. So we've got this woman in this quite daring pose, and we're just saying, we're taking it a step further. We've been really subtle with feminism and our strong women and stuff like that, so let's really put this out there. The next slide here, so this is slide 18. So for this project we've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got 9, we've actually got 9 slides on this kind of one. It wasn't really a project, didn't just have one outcome, it was a body of work. So we've got 9, which is almost half of our portfolio is on one body of work, which was produced in my 4th year. So it's quite a prominent part of the portfolio. And you can see how it bleeds into each other. So here we've got which looks like a leaflet or an invitation. You can see that it's for an exhibition. So I'm kind of showing that the work that you're about to see is a whole body of work. It's for this exhibition, which is called Funeral for a Fuckboy. We've got this kind of quote here, in loving memory of all the boys that have changed me as a woman. So we've got a wee idea what's going on here. We've got the line drawing, which we've seen in the last slide as well. If we move on to the next slide, what we've got here is an image of a sculpture. So the sculpture is a metal plate with that same well, similar drawing to the one we've just seen on the previous slide, welded into it. So it's actually welded into the metal, and it's basically in this low budget coffin, and it's on the floor, and the image is quite a strong image. It's got 3 people round it wearing all black like it is a funeral, and basically this is a snapshot from the kind of performative opening event that I had for the exhibition, and it just kind of, it's another one of those wow images. You're like, oh my god, like you're having a funeral for like a past partner, or what's going on here. It's just a very strong imagery, and it kind of makes you think like, how did she get here? So on this slide we've got an up close detail picture of the sculpture, so you can see there's almost like, where you can see the interest in colours and textures, but you can also see this hole. It's almost like a bullet wound, and then beside that we've got some sketchbook pages. So here it just kind of shows my process, what I was thinking about. It's kind of got like just some interesting things of what I was thinking about. I was thinking about the crucifixion, I was thinking about like really spindly, and looking at how like criminals and stuff were like chopped up and put into like graves, or they weren't like put in nice and straight, they were just flung in to these holes and stuff like that. So it kind of shows you like what was going on. Why did the drawing have no arms and no head? It was, you know what I mean, things like that. And then again, moving on to the next one, it's like another big picture. So this project was really raw and emotional, and I think like in my portfolio there is a lot of really strong imagery, so that's maybe why it took up 9 slides, because it is such a powerful subject. It's raw, it's emotional, it's out there, there's no holding back. It's something that I explored, that was newly explored in my 4th year, and I think I wanted to make that clear. So this slide is You Fucked Me, and it's a double entendre, so it could be like, you know, sexual, or it could be like mentally, you know, wrecked someday. And it's just a close-up of a plaque, and the statement is all it needs. Even though we've got the scarring, almost scar-like metal welded onto it, the text is what's important here. So moving on to that, we actually come on to the next slide, which is another piece that has taken up a slide on its own, and it's because it's this humongous 1 metre by 1 metre sheet of steel, and it's got this kind of gravestone on it, which is in keeping with the kind of funeral for a fuckboy type thing, and it's got this quote on it, and it's got these drawings with the weld, and it's just really kind of eerie and heartfelt. And then on the next page is something similar, and it also shows an image from the exhibition as well. So it's kind of, this picture on the right here, it's showing scale. That's another important thing, is like you kind of want to show scale or texture. Like sometimes you can have something that's this small, but if you take a picture up close, it looks huge. So it's good to kind of show what you're kind of working with, and how big or how small you are working, because that can totally change the meaning of a piece. So the next slide here was actually showing how I got there. So basically I had started this series called a diary entry series, and I drew continuous line, and I wrote, it was almost like a diary, and I just wrote things, whatever came to mind. It was like not looking, it was just letting my emotions pour out, because at the time I'd been going through a really bad breakup, and I just felt like I wanted to be open and raw and emotional, and I wanted to just get everything out so that I could heal. So I started off with this diary entry series, and it was just these drawings, and at the exhibition I had them framed along one wall. So I'm kind of showing, both here I'm showing where it came from, I'm showing some of the other sketches, and then one of them framed with a viewer. And then we move on to the final image, which again, it's another image that you want people to remember. When they come into your portfolio, they see this first image and they're like, wow, this is really interesting, I want to like keep going. Then you've got your flip around, where you're like, oh, there's more to this person than what we thought. and then you want to leave them on a high note as well. So you want to be like, here's my last image, so it's imprinted on their mind, and then they'll remember you. So this image is, again, it's from the performative viewing or opening night, and I'm actually dressed for a funeral. So the dress code was funeral attire basically, and people came dressed all in black, as you could see in the photograph of people standing around the coffin, and it's just me kind of gazing, and you know, it's just a really good photo to show the whole body work. You've got the drawings in the background and you've got the sculpture on the floor, and yeah. So that's the end of my portfolio. If there is anything that you would like to know or ask, just comment below, because I'm always on my phone and I get the notification through if people comment, and I can just let you know any advice that I can give you. I've also got access to my tutors and stuff, and I can email them and ask any questions that you might not know, or I can direct you to an email that you can get in touch with and they'll let you know the answers to the questions. So thank you for watching my video, and hopefully I'll be back soon with another video on the art school topic. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, share this video with your friends or whatever if you really like it, and thank you for watching. Bye!